Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lori. I'm doing this video on the edge of the first of 3 eclipses that we're having in about a 3 to 4 week time span. And I'm doing a video today on my own personal experience and what's been happening to me in the last 12 hours. What I'm experiencing, what I'm going through, and I'm sharing it to explore and talk about the energies right now. This kind of intense sort of squeezing that's happening with us, and this interesting sort of portal that the beings that I work with were showing me that we're sort of squeezing ourselves through. So if you don't know me, I don't typically read a lot of stuff. I don't look at a lot of things. So I don't know exactly what others are saying about the energies that's happening right now. And I don't like to talk a lot about this week's energy update, or, because for me, it just feels like every day we're going through something. Every day we're shifting. Every day something new or something old is experienced. So it's not like, and I think that sometimes when we watch those videos, then we start to gauge our own process. And am I feeling this? Am I not feeling this? Should I be feeling that? Should I not be feeling that? And then there's this piece about the human that begins to kind of fixate on whatever that person's saying. So I tend not to do these types of videos, but based on what I've experienced today and what my guides were telling me, they told me to share it. So I will. So here we go. I am once again moving through a core human condition that I brought in as spirit, which is loneliness. Deep, deep, deep loneliness, being left, being alone, being by myself, feeling completely isolated, just being really, really alone. And if you've watched some of my other videos in the past, you know that that's definitely something that I'm continuously open about and working on. And so when I woke up this morning, it was boom in my face again, right? Here it is. And this is one of the things that I heard my beautiful star beings share with me about this. One, how intense is this, Lori? And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is extremely intense. This is just as intense as I felt it 3 weeks ago, or actually it was a couple months ago in March. So this energy that we're going through, this shift, feels very much like that March energy that we were moving through, where we went through 3 weeks of like squeezing. I think I called it birthing, but this feels more like a squeezing, and it feels like we're moving through a portal. So what it looks like and feels like when you move through energetic portals on a collective level, and this is very unconscious, so you're not aware of this, but you might be able to energetically feel it, is that when you move on an etheric level through a portal, what happens is it feels like you're being kind of sucked in, and it gets kind of dark and quiet, and then you get pushed out. So there's this squeezing, sucking, pulling, and pushing out into a different dimension. And so I really deeply feel like what's happening right now for us in these next couple of weeks, for many of us, is this squeezing, contracting, and then being pulled on, kind of like out of our own way, out of our own will. So very much feeling like you're out of control, like you don't have control over a lot of things. You don't have control over your emotions. You might not have control over the situations that are happening. That's the pulling down. And then there's going to be this, at the end of all of this, there's going to be a little bit more of an expansion. And again, what I think is important to understand about that pushing out into a different sort of consciousness, shifting, is that it's not going to be this like, aha, like, oh, look at, I'm much more advanced, or I'm so much more enlightened after those 3 weeks, I think that in the spiritual community, there's a disservice that's being done when people are talking about these shifts that are occurring and moving into higher states of consciousness and these levels of awareness and awakening and enlightenment, because what happens is we as humans expect a certain outcome, and those outcomes usually don't happen because this shift is very slow, right? The collective consciousness shifting and your individual consciousness shifting and your light shifting. Consciousness is just energy, the energy body shifting, right? Very slow. So when somebody talks about, we're moving through shift, portals or timelines or paradigms, or there's solar flares coming in and your light body is going to be activated. These are very subtle shifts. These are very subtle sort of movements. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about that. I think they talk about it and then the human listens to it and expects these like ginormous sort of, spaces to come out of and be in this new awareness. And that's not how it works for many of us. It's very slow. And so what's happening with me is I'm becoming very aware through the last year of this core human condition. And I call it a human condition as opposed to a core issue or a core wound or a core trauma. Wound, trauma, issue, those are all human words that we put on it to make sense of it. But when you come into a body, right, as a spirit, so you're a spirit, you're a light body, you volunteered, no matter who you are, what you've done, to come into this physical form that you're in right now. And when you did, you designed your life, right? And so you chose conditions in the human world, conditions being experiences you wanted to feel. Maybe and there's core conditions that we sort of pulled like puzzle pieces or like blocks. And we're like, I'd really like to feel deep, deep loneliness throughout this life, right? Boom. I'd really like to feel a self-loathing and greed or jealousy. I would love to have jealousy as a core issue, a human condition that I experience. Poverty. I'd love to feel poverty. Maybe you came down and you experience inequality your entire life, right? So pulling an inequality block, and you're going to be a minority and you're going to feel that kind of inequality your whole life. Maybe you pulled a block of I'm going to be really rich my entire life, or super famous, or whatever these blocks are. These are human conditions that we pull in, and we have a core set of them. Okay, and those are the things that are constantly coming up, and those are the things that create our experience. So basically, you take these building blocks, right? These human conditions that we pulled, and from there you begin to create your life. So you bring in and you make contracts with people, you make contracts with events and experiences that will allow you to experience these set of blocks that you've created. So what happens in your life is it's a combination of remembering that you have these blocks that you pulled, these core conditions to experience on the human earth plane. And then you agreed with all these different people, places, and events to allow you to experience them. Now, in terms of trying to make sense as to why you would choose what you chose, that's a human brain, ego trying to figure it out. I don't know why I would choose loneliness. I don't know why. I did, right? So we don't know why we choose what we choose in this ego form. Maybe some of you do, right? But we will when we leave this human third dimensional space. So what's happening in our ascension process is these human conditioned blocks that we brought in, right, that are the solid foundation of our core issues, wounds, trauma, that kind of stuff, is coming up over and over and over. And the beautiful human is saying, why is this continuing to come up? Why is this person continuing to show me that this is still coming up? Why am I having events, right? Why? Well, these are deep, entrenched conditions within the human experience, within our own human unique experience. And it takes layer after layer after layer. And when I say layer, I mean another jump up in consciousness. So each time you kind of increase your light quotient, and there's nothing to do to increase it, so it's just happening through our ascension process, okay? But each time that we sort of start to shift a little bit more, these 3 weeks, the knob is turning. Our light quotient is increasing a little bit more. Okay. And as that happens, there's a layer that peels back, right? So eventually what will end up happening with these blocks is that they'll no longer be there. But that's only when we get into a frequency that is high enough that it has peeled back all of the layers where it's dissolved, if that makes sense. So it's a constant shifting of light quotient. It's a constant shifting of our consciousness, of our awareness, of the paradigms and the timelines and the realities and the belief systems, right? All these things that we're starting to do is allowing us to very slowly peel back each layer of each of those blocks. And there are many, many layers to peel back. So if you understand that during these intense times, I mean, every day is an intense moment for us, intense time for us, but in these really intense kind of compact, universal, in the sense of that the other systems of light are playing a part in this right now. The moon, the sun, the planets, those types of things. We have an ability to really speed up this knob. And so when you speed up the knob a little bit more layers of these core conditions that you agreed to experience are going to peel back. So maybe in this 3-week period, you're going to peel back 4 layers of greed, or 4 layers of insecurity, or 4 layers of jealousy, or 4 layers of poverty. Maybe in these 3 weeks, I'll be peeling back a couple more layers of that loneliness. It is not going to be gone when I pop out of this new portal into this other space. It's not going to be gone. So if we have this understanding and awareness that we're not getting rid of it, right? And it's kind of like, let's settle into this, okay? I'm going to settle in and feel like, okay, I don't have to get rid of it. You know, when you think about it in terms of trauma and working through trauma, all you're doing is looking at these sort of conditioned boxes and sort of like excavating it and moving through it and playing around with it. But doing the trauma work or doing all the work around it doesn't get rid of it. It might make it easier to feel it. So the trauma work and that kind of work that you do, it's going to make it perhaps easier to feel it. It's going to allow you, a lot of us that have deep trauma, it may allow us to actually settle into it a little bit more, drop into it. So there may be some conditioned blocks down here that you haven't even been able to tap into because of the pain and trauma of it. So the trauma work and the wounding kind of work that's out there that people are presenting to humans is going to allow you to kind of drop in and start to look at these boxes. But the boxes themselves unravel naturally through the ascension process, through our evolution, through our consciousness expanding one layer at a time, getting higher and higher and higher. And so when I was given this information, when I was exhausted, and I allowed myself to have the exhaustion. I canceled my day and I allowed myself to be, and I slept and I felt it, and then it went away, and then it came back, and then it went away, and I did whatever I could during my day that's going to make me feel good. So I made a smoothie, went to the mineral springs, those kinds of things, sat in water. Maybe for you, it's just laying. Maybe for you, it's going for a drive. Maybe it's watching Netflix. Maybe it's going to a movie or to dinner or hanging out with certain groups of people. Whatever it is, allow yourself to have that. And if it's not popping up right now, maybe it will pop up in a couple of days. Maybe it'll pop up in a couple of weeks. Maybe this isn't your time to kind of move into this squeezing zone. Not everyone is necessarily going to go through what I'm experiencing. Not everyone is going to go through what everybody's talking about, right? We all have different ideas and different experiences and different ways of explaining what's happening, right? Because we're all different energetic beings. But if this resonates with you, then fabulous. That's why I created this video, to allow you to understand these human blocks, to allow you to understand that here we go again, put your seatbelt on. We're charging through. And this time, when I talk about, in March, I talked about the birthing process, and this time it feels more like an actual portal where we're being pulled in, and then we're going to be pushed out into a different kind of state of consciousness or field. Again, very subtle, but it just feels like it's a different sort of experience that's happening. And it feels pretty dramatic, even though I'm saying that it's very slow the way we shift. It also feels like, and what I'm hearing right now, is that in these moments, in these times where we're being given like really intense squeezing, really intense contraction, really intense time to like, okay, we can make some major shifting, we can do some major damage right now in terms of our shifts. Take advantage of it. So what I do when I know that I'm in this space, when I know that this is major shifts, major activations, major changing, I'm stepping into another smaller, not smaller like smaller, but another like little baby step of a higher version of myself. I take advantage of it. So I start focusing on what I'm releasing. What are these blocks that I'm releasing? What am I bringing into my life? Okay, it's like, okay, I'm very lonely. I totally feel that. I get this core block that I pulled into experience, but I also know that I can have anything I want, and that I'm walking into new realities and paradigms where I've been told over and over again that it's the age of miracles. We are walking into the age of miracles. We can have anything we want. So there's a dichotomy playing out. We have these contracted blocks that we're letting go of, but not by ourselves. Through the ascension process, we are releasing step by step, layer by layer, right? Releasing these. And at the same time, as these are still here, stepping into new realities that are telling us that we can have anything we want. And that just because this happened doesn't mean that you can't still have anything you want. So what do I want? I want a partnership with a beautiful man. And this is how I want it, right? In terms of like, this is how I want it to feel. They're going to show it to me. They're going to bring it to me. They have it all under control, right? But I just am going to let them know, hey, just a little shout out, what I'm waiting for, what I'm ready for, what I'm willing to accept and take into my life, what I'm ready for. And letting them take it, letting them have that. And being very conscious of this. And so I invite you all to understand that one thing, of course, you're not alone. That if you've been going through this for however many months and years, you're not alone. We're all doing it. And what we're stepping into right now is just a really intense portal. And don't take all these spiritual words for anything other than we get an opportunity to really squeeze. We get an opportunity to really start to look even more intensely at these blocks. What are these that you pulled in? What are these base chunks, human conditions that you decided you wanted to play out and experience? We all needed to experience aspects of the human condition. It's part of coming onto the planet. And you'll know what yours are because they're the same things that have happened since the beginning of you coming onto the earth plane. Right? It's the same things over, and that's why we get so frustrated. We're like, how is this still coming up? It's still coming up because it's a block that you pulled in and said, chunk, this is here for the ride. Let's go. And then you created all these scenarios in order for you to experience this. And they're not all negative, or I should say not negative, but they're not all not fun. We also have other blocks that are beautiful that we wanted to experience, right? Hopefully, we've created some sort of a balance, but you'll know what your blocks are by what you've experienced over and over and over and over. And so you're not alone. take these next couple of weeks to really focus on and get aware, get conscious of, what are these? What am I continuing to peel back? Understand that there's nothing you need to do. Today, I didn't do anything in terms of healing these. Understand you're whole. As a being of light, you're whole. Okay? These are just things that you pulled in to your wholeness to experience on the earth plane, because the earth had its own set of rules that you had to abide by when you came in. Okay? And these blocks are part of it. So you are whole. There is nothing to heal. There is nothing that you need to do to make yourself whole again. You are a whole light being experiencing the human condition through these blocks, understanding that there's nothing you need to do other than allowing, especially in these really intense times, allowing yourself to just move with it and let the light, let the frequencies that are coming in unravel it for you. You'll notice that when you start to experience this block, like I'm experiencing loneliness again today, right? But it's not as potent as it was in March. It doesn't have, it's like it's shifted just a little bit. And the next time I go deep into it, it's going to shift again, right? So it's never the exact same intensity. It's always shifting just a little bit less in intensity. If you can become conscious of it, you'll recognize it. And the way you become conscious is you become very familiar with how it feels. And how do you do that? You get into your body and you feel. You have to feel in order to move through this ascension process. You have to feel in order to move and understand what's going on with you. What are these blocks? So you don't feel so crazy and out of control. The more we can understand what's going on, the more we're going to be able to feel okay through this. I'm not going to freak out this morning when I was knocked to the floor, exhausted, and feeling like I'm completely alone, lonely, annihilated. That whole feeling I have, off kilter, right? Squeezed and off kilter. I didn't do anything. I knew that the frequencies were doing it for me. I felt it. So become conscious, feel, let it move through you. There's nothing you need to do. There's nothing you need to do with it. There's nothing you need to do with it. I've said this in so many of my videos, and it's the absolute truth. It's the way ascension works. If there are blocks in terms of you not being able to move in and feel these, then you can, reach out to people and get help and assistance moving through whatever blocks you have in terms of starting to feel these. That's the trauma, I think, that humans talk about, right? So there's this part of you here, and there's all this trauma here, and then the block is right here, the human condition. And so you've got to get yourself here so that you can start to really feel what the actual human condition deep down feels like. And when you tap into these deep, deep human conditions, the one you chose, it feels like a deep wounded core. When you get to it, you're like, oh, okay, this is painful. Like, ow, I think I'm going to die. Like, what is this? You feel like you're going to annihilate. You feel like you're going to burn. You feel like you're going to die, right? It's like deep core, heavy, way in there emotions. And that's because it's here. So if you're still up here and you can't quite get to the blocks yet, the human conditions that you chose to experience, then that's when you reach out and work through that trauma and you work through that pain and the fear and all the things that are here so that you can start to experience this, right? The more you can bring your consciousness and awareness to this, the easier it will be for the unlayering process to happen. It's still happening, even when you're up here, okay? Even when you're up here and you can't quite get to it, they're telling me right now, they're telling me, let them know it's still happening. So it's still happening. The things are still unraveling, okay? But when you're up here not able to feel it, you're going to feel really out of control. You're going to feel like you're crazy and you're losing your mind. You're going to feel like that you just don't have a grasp sometimes on what's going on reality, on a lot of things. You may feel extremely detached. You may feel like a zombie. You may feel like you're walking around completely aligned, but yet there's a piece of you that just knows you're not quite aligned yet. So they want you to know that even if you are still sort of unable to tap into some of these blocks down here, it's still unraveling. The natural process is still unraveling. But you want to be able to eventually get here so that you can feel like you are moving and flowing and understanding things. It's like watching a movie in a different language, right? And you're like, I'm looking at everything, I'm watching it all happen around me, but I don't know the plot. I don't get what's going on. I can't feel emotionally what's happening here. That's you being up here, right? And when you're down here, it's like you turn it on to your language and it's like, oh, okay, I get it. Totally get it. I can work with this. I got it. I can feel it. I see it. I experience it. It's that kind of feeling. So there's a lot going on. You're not alone, and we're all here. We're all here doing it, and we're doing it in our own unique way, in our own process, in our own time frame. Please don't let other people's experiences or how other people are doing it persuade you or dissuade you that you aren't doing it right, you aren't doing it fast enough, there's a problem with you, whatever it may be. Always come back to your own unique human journey that you're on, your own unique blocks that you pulled in, your own sovereign wholeness that you are, that you have always been, and that there is nothing you need to fix or heal. You're just living out this human condition, these human conditions, and it's getting more and more intense because we are shifting out of these human conditions, thank God, and into these new realities where we aren't living in duality anymore, right? But it's a very slow shift, and it's torturous sometimes. It's like peeling off a Band-Aid really, really slowly, right? It's like the pain just isn't freaking stopping. Although sometimes somebody's, the person that's pulling the Band-Aid off, it kind of stops for a second and you're like, oh, I can breathe. Okay, this is great. Life is fabulous. I've totally nailed it. I am so good at nailing my life and my emotions and everything, right? And then the next thing you know, somebody's pulled that freaking Band-Aid again. You're like, why am I here again? How's this happening? What? Right? So the Band-Aid is just going to continue to get pulled. That's a really good analogy. I like it. I'm going to write that down. Anyways, I love you guys so much. So I decided I'm going to do next week, I'm going to do a 2-hour live question and answer session. And it's going to be on Zoom. And we're going to join all around the world. And I'm going to answer all your questions. Any question you have about how do I hear my higher self? How do I know it's not my ego? Who are my star family? Am I Lemurian? Do I need to clear past life stuff? What's my purpose work? How do I know I'm supposed to get a new job? How do I find a new job and trust that? Any question and every question is invited and is allowed and is going to come into our space. And I'm going to channel the messages for all of us. And so I'm going to leave the link down below if you're interested in signing up. We're all going to come together and share. And I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer the questions that all of us have, and hopefully it'll assist us. So if you're interested, check the link down below. It's going to be next week sometime. I don't know the day or time, but 2 hours, and it's going to be on Zoom, which is like Skype. So if you're interested, contact me, and I'll send you the link to sign up. Okay, I love you all so much. Don't beat yourselves up. Remember how beautiful you are. Remember how courageous you are for being here in a body. Don't forget. We get caught up in the fact that we're in this third dimensional world, driving a car, paying our bills, watching Netflix, doing all those human things. But we are a spirit that came down into physical form to play out a really, really potent, powerful, magical play, right? The earth is shifting. Humans are shifting. This is miraculous. This is never seen before. And you're here doing it. You're here. You volunteered. So it's a lot bigger than we forget, than we remember. It's a much bigger picture that's actually happening here. And so just remember these blocks. You pulled them. You designed it. You were like, I'm going to have this and this and this and this and this. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to create my life based around these things. And if you look back at your life, you will see that a lot of these things played out throughout your life. And a lot of these things probably played out in the very beginning of your life to really pound it in, so that when you started to grow up, it was solid in there, right? In your belief systems. But it's not who you are. You're a beautiful being of light. And you will remember that over and over again. So be easy on yourself. I love you all very much, and I will see you next time. Bye.